The two most powerful things you can answer somebody, especially an expired, is what happened. Ask the questions and then shut up and listen so you don't talk yourself out of the deal. Like, I've seen some of the dumbest people in the world who are good prospectors because they just stick to script.
All right. Welcome to the Signature Buzz, your go-to podcast for real estate professionals looking to elevate their game. Today, we're diving into mastering cold calling scripts and overcoming objections with the one and only Jamaal out of our Green Valley office. I'm also joined with my co-host and prospecting extraordinaire, Chris Bishop. Welcome, Jamaal.
Morning, everybody.
How are you?
Oh, what a great day to be alive.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say it any better than that. So, but let's start off with a little bit of getting to know you a little bit. So how long have you been doing real estate?
This is my 8th year. What a great 8 it's been.
Lucky 8. Great 8.
That's right.
So what did you do before real estate?
I worked pretty much. I'm born and raised in Vegas, so I did everything you could possibly do in the food and beverage industry. Started from bar back to I was a flair bartender. Then I worked for corporate nightlife is kind of where I ended. I went back and I finished gaming, and I was a gaming bartender, and I pretty much got into real estate off a trip. I lost my job on the way back from Cuba and had a really sad flight home from Miami and had to figure out what I was going to do. Got home on Sunday, started real estate on Tuesday.
That's awesome.
Okay. What was it that triggered you to do real estate then? I mean, you had all kinds of options, I'm sure.
The biggest thing is I wanted to be in control of my own checks. Like having the ability to kind of control my destiny. The thing is, like with the service industry, it's like a retail job. So you can only be as good as the people that come in and the experience that you give. When I figured out about real estate, it's all about self-development, just internalizing thoughts. And I had a really good teacher who was kind of like a mentor to me, who was always such a positive person. And unfortunately, he had been telling me for years to do it. And when I had come back to Vegas from Washington, he actually passed away. But he was a really good broker in town, same age. He died at 32 of brain cancer. And I was like, look, man, this dude has been a great mentor to me. And I was never a great mentor to myself. So I took the plunge and here we are.
So a lot of things have changed there if you say you weren't a good mentor to yourself, because I think you're one of the most positive people I know. And, I got to know you a little bit better just over the last month or so as you spent some time with us in the academy, and you spent some time talking with the people going through the academy. And I was really impressed with some of the stuff you said. And then I got to run into you down in Costa Rica, which was a lot of fun. And we toyed about actually recording this podcast down there, but we didn't want to work. So, but that was a good trip, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I never got to fight the wolf, but I did almost have to fight a monkey. So it was cool. It was awesome.
Oh, that's inside conversations there. Jamaal thinks he can take a gray wolf with his bare hands. So I don't know.
Not anymore. Mike took that out of me.
So when you got into real estate, did you just automatically jump on the phones, or I mean, what were the early days like?
Yes, I actually did jump. So I had he was a great mentor, but he was not that good of a person kind of thing, but he was a very big phone prospector. He makes a lot of money. We won't name any names, but this guy was a savage. So he would be on the phones for like 7 to 8 hours a day. And he said, if you want to be good, you need to figure out ways how to get in front of people to get more opportunities. So I would just sit there and he would berate me. So for my first 2 years on the phone, that was terrible. Like the craziest thing is like, I didn't even convert my first expired listing for 2.5 years.
Wow.
A lot of my stuff came from like SOI, from talking, from just being just dumbfounded and running into business kind of thing, just from these practices. No, I'm like, Chris, I couldn't sit in open houses. I'm like, I have ADHD, and I'm like, I can only touch the wall so many times. So phones were my game. And then once I figured out what the whole point of being on the phones are, it changed my perspective pretty much. But yeah, it was a pretty tough, hard game, and it was a lot of character building, I always say, to get to where I'm at and just have the understanding of what it is to be a phone prospector, what it is just to have that part of your business, and what it is to have a process in your business. So yeah, it was rough, if that makes any sense.
Do you think the
Yeah, it
9 to 5
makes
experience that you had prepped you to be able to get on the phone and make calls? Like you had to come out of your comfort shell a lot to talk to people that would just randomly walk up. Do you think that kind of helped you feel better about it?
Well, see, the whole thing is like coming from food and beverage industry, especially being here, you know how to command a room. Like I was a flair bartender, I did all these things, and you have the essence, but you lack the knowledge of sales, what people want, how to think outside yourself, all these things. So I could create this experience, but we all have this fear of like, what's my value proposition? What am I actually selling in this thing? Like, why should somebody pay me $40,000, $20,000, $100,000? Because I had this huge thing in my, my mindset where it's like, wait a minute, why would they pay this for me? I've never made this much money in my life. Why would somebody else pay this? And then you have to kind of understand that. So that's what I love about real estate, because you can wake up every day and give yourself a raise. But more importantly, you get to wake up every day and basically find ways to be a better person, find ways to adjust your conversation, find ways to learn a different language of people. So that's like the essence that I learned through prospecting. It wasn't necessarily the people I was talking to, it's how am I improving my conversations? How am I actually listening? Like there's 3 phases that I like to tell people of the scripts, right? It's you just reading them, it's you knowing it and internalizing it, but then like reflecting on it. And then the third and most important stage is you knowing it so well that you can actually listen what people say. That's such a game changer. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was like the big like transitions when I started to become successful and do what I want to do. It opened up everything, and now they put it to a point where they can never take it away. That's the beauty of it. So yeah, so I'm big into like self development and just helping yourself in these ways and just learning different ways to be a better you.
So last week we talked to Keith Lynham, and we talked about really working your sphere in and attracting business, right? And when we talk about cold calling and scripts and stuff like that, I think it's important that people realize that whether you're calling the people you know or you're calling people you don't know, it's all prospecting, right?
Mhm.
And what you mentioned early that your first business kind of came from your sphere, the people that you know. I mean, do you follow a script when you talk to the people you know?
Yeah, yeah. So I have different steps. Like so, basically, depending on where I'm in the process and what like kind of where they're located in my database. Like I have MVPs, A plus, B plus, all that other things. But I do have like activation calls. I haven't talked to you in a while calls. I have, just checking in calls. I have service calls. You have all these different things because that's what's going to lead the conversation is you having the intention of where the conversation's going. And so when I call people and it's business to say, hey, perfect example. We were at the academy. I had this trip from Costa Rica that got moved, and by God's thing, we happened to be in Costa Rica at the same time. You told me to book Japan. I booked Japan. So now when I talk to my SOI, I say, oh my God, how are you doing? Everything else, you have time for business? I don't know if you know this, but we got this big trip to Japan. I need 1 or 2 people in your phone that are going to help me make this a great trip. I'm taking the girls, I'm taking this. That's how you bring people in your business. Why can't they be excited for you? Everyone wants to kind of hide these things, but then that makes me more eager to learn about what they're doing. How can I help you? Like, what are some things? If you're wanting to help me, how am I willing to help you? So it's always that kind of giving back and reciprocity that you always have to have in the conversations that basically you call them for. So yeah, everything's pretty scripted.
So it comes off very smooth from you, right? You've been doing this 8 years. Can you remember your first cold call?
Oh yeah, it was terrible. I remember, it's not even my first cold call. It was the first time I actually listened. It wasn't scared and getting anxiety because that was like it was 2 years in and I was calling expired. And this guy goes, listen, I got 3 words for you. Go on and F yourself. And I paused and I listened. I said, sir, that's 4. And he was so angry, but it was the first time I actually cared about it. And I was like, oh my, and it didn't bother me, didn't do anything else because I understood, hey, it's early. Like, what happened? And that's the crazy part. The people who are most angry are the ones who need the most help. You don't go to a therapist because you feel great. You're not going to a doctor because, you can run. So these things like are what put us as professionals. Our willingness to like go through this and combat it and have be the calm in between the storms and actually deliver great service. Like that's like the essence of like cold calling. That's the essence of getting in front of people. That's the essence of like basic year process that we sell. So Yeah, all my first ones, I tend to forget about. That one stands out the most. And I have like a couple of the things that I'm really like proud of in my business, like in my whole career. And they were all the things where I either lost business or I wasn't up like basically up to the challenge, or basically one of my most powerful one is there was someone I really didn't like in high school and we terrible things, and she told me to tell her, she asked me to sell her home. And I said, there's not enough money in the world to make me work with you. That was like the most, because it was great. Because as a bartender or service industry, they come to that bar. You have the right to refuse service. But what does that matter? You're talking about $20, $30 drinks. Your integrity and your character is priceless. So it's all, I don't do like when I first started calling, but I remember all the times where I like rose to the occasion. And even if I didn't get the business, oh my God, that's like, what do you call it? Like centrifugal motion, centrifugal force, where it pushes one way and you're like, and that gave me enough like confidence in what I was doing to just get in. And, I think I did like 8 million that year, even without her business. So it was good stuff.
So when you first started doing this process, like a lot of agents are freaked out about it. They amp themselves down instead of up. What kind of tips do you have for someone to get out of their own way? Get leading up to the actual activity? What would you do when you first started out to clear your mindset to be able to push yourself to do it? Because I have one agent right now that he's like, there's no way, I don't care, I'll never do it. How do you get yourself out of that?
So the biggest thing is having a prospecting cockpit, we used to call it. So back in the day, we had these those huge folders, right? You have the 3 folds, you have your scripts, you have everything else. Like my biggest thing was I knew I sounded terrible and I sound like a Muppet still. I would always make jokes. I'm like, rah, rah, rah. And whenever I get really excited, people know I use my hands, I do all these things. And for some people, it's really hard to stay going. I wore this specifically, but like my biggest thing is like my daughters, right? So I have all these things that are reminding me why I'm doing it. When I talk, like when I would go in, I would always write my affirmations while I was prospecting. I would always write either my listing presentation or whatever, like if I was calling expireds, I write my expireds out because I would make that a part of it. Because you're going to be the best if you're doing it in front of you and you could literally write your notes. So it's like, oh my God, hi, this is Jamaal. I'm a realtor. Unfortunately, you came to my computer as an expired listing, and I was calling to see what your plans with that property were going forward. And I'm like, oh, it's not exactly what it's on the script, but I took enough time to be like, all right, well, I want to hear what they want to say, and I want to prompt a response. Affirmations are huge. So if I'm writing, like, if it's a bad day and I don't want to prospect, I'm writing like affirmations and affirmations. So I'm like, why am I successful? And I would write it out because when they answer the phone, I'm going to be really happy about it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a powerful agent. I have people who love and support me. I've traveled and I've solved the world, and I can share that with my family. I can create happiness every day. These little things that you can just do because you're going to be on the phone. And for some people who have dialers, some people call by hand. It's just the little incremental things which you do during the time of like the repetitive boredom, and during the time where you have these like little moments of like cowardice, I call it. Like cowardice and courage are just 3 steps in the different direction where it's going to make the intention more billing to. So it's like, I'm not in it to make money. I'm not like money driven, but I look for 2 things that I found out in my business. I look for satisfaction and fulfillment. So if at the end of the day, I don't care if I make any money, if I did what I said I was going to do, and I was like basically kept the contract and the appointment with myself to these things, I can go and I can say, oh my God, it was an exhausting, but let me tell you about it. Or let me internalize it, or I can look myself in the mirror and know that even though we don't get it, we can go back tomorrow. And I know that I've become a better person for it because I've literally done what I said I was going to do with myself. So yeah, you never lose in this game. No one's getting out of this life alive. It was what they tell me.
So why do you think so many agents struggle with making calls? I mean, our business is really about talking to people, right? To determine if there's a need or if we can help them. Why do you think so many people struggle with it?
The mirror. Like, there's too many things going, like, because to put yourself out there is the hardest thing you could do. And you can only wake up and be yourself. So it's hard. It's hard for me. Everyone has like an imposter syndrome, and it's all about like the different ways that you kind of take it. I had a big thing when I would say, oh my God, it's imposter syndrome. But when we talk about imposter syndrome, that's you sharpening your knife every day because you're too scared of what people think. The more that you go into and the more that you figure out that it is only you that you're in competition with, nobody else, no other agents, you'll probably get off social media. You're probably not going to be on Instagram or TikTok that much because It's all internal. And the thing that you're selling is yourself. Like, we don't sell houses, we sell services and processes. Most people don't have a service and process, and most people aren't willing to work on it. They want the 9 to 5. Unfortunately, this is the highest margin sales job. And you can be a complete idiot and make millions of dollars. I've seen it.
Hey,
is that,
you said you wouldn't bring that up while I was on the call.
right, Chris? I'm on that. But you know what I mean? Like, you have these instances and all these people who are being successful, and they look at themselves and instead of saying, why not me? They say, well, why not something else? Everyone always questions themselves, but no one has a discipline to go figure out what it is. I sat there 2 years and I was god awful. My first listing was 7% because I didn't know any better. And it was from my good friends. And literally a year after, when I found out, like, well, that's what really good agents charging, I questioned myself about it. Instead of just giving them good service, they referred me, they did everything else. And the whole point was, like, I didn't have enough value myself. So when it's just you making calls and doing this, it's terrifying. Let's not beat around the bush. To go knock on someone's door, especially in a time where everyone has all this anxiety. Like, yeah, that's why agents fail, because they refuse to look in the mirror about it. How can I be better? What am I doing this for? Like, if you want to go make 100,000, I was making over 6 figures doing a bartender, but I'm only as good as the bar that I work at. I'm only as good as this and this. And honestly, it's a toxic environment. So if you don't see that for yourself, like, who's going to see it for you? It's way too easy to go work at Walmart or get a 60,000, 80,000. Go do that. But to have the freedom to do whatever you want, the freedom to have and create, like, happiness every day, or create whatever you want to create, like, that's not meant for everybody. So yeah, when we look at dropout, the dropout rates, we look at, dropout rates of all these sales jobs. It's because, yeah, it's not an easy business. It's an easy business, but it's really hard work, is what they tell me, right? So yeah,
one of the things I've always known about you since the first time I met you is you exude confidence. Like, you're the guy to talk to. Like, you make everyone feel better when you have those conversations. You make people smile when you talk about it. How did you did you fake it till you make it? I mean, how did you shove that into your business before you sold that first house to have that confidence? Because it seems like those more confident make more sales.
Yeah. We were at the academy, and I like to shout out to Carly, because she said sales is a transfer of enthusiasm. I was born and raised here. Chris was born and raised here. The whole thing is, like, this is a very, very small town, right? Your character means everything. And coming from the bar industry, like, the whole thing is, you don't just wake up one day and you're just a realtor. Everyone has these certain abilities and superpowers. And the whole thing I took is like, look, no matter what's going to happen, I used to fight, train, do everything else. I used to go to, bartend, all these things. I'm the same person. So do you think when we approach this, I'm taking what I've learned from bartending, I'm taking what I've learned from this. If I always say, like, if you take something from one person, it's stealing. You take it from a whole bunch of people, it's research. So I just researched on the person I want to become. Who are my role models? What do they do? How do we do this? Like, no one wants to go to somebody who has anxiety or is unsure about things, but I had to build that over time. But that's the whole process. I had to be terrible on the phones and keep on doing it until I reached rock bottom and said, well, what do I need to switch? If the strips don't sound good, I'm not internalizing right. If I'm not getting the appointment, I'm not asking the right questions. So I started doing question banks. I started taking every single agent who would let me on their email drips, let me give them to me, because I'm going to take one or two things and I'll make my own. I took from Jeff, like, you have to have all these different poles in the water. So that's what it is. Like, wait a minute, if I have something that's a hole in my business, let's figure out a way to fill it. And then when I actually can talk to somebody intelligently, I can help someone now. Now we're having a conversation. Now we can say, okay, well, this isn't the best, but if you're not excited about that, and, like, the things that you can learn that can make you 100,000, 200,000 in your business, and you probably are in the wrong business. So yeah, I'm always excited because, first of all, like, I got kids who love me. I get to travel the world. I get to do this. The only thing I have to do is be a better part of myself. And the whole thing is, like, I'm not, sometimes I don't even prospect in a day or do anything else. The only person who knows that is me. The whole thing is, like, if I continue to do it, well, that becomes a pattern and habit. And that's what I'm trying to go away with. So either I need to get back on what's going to inspire me, not motivate, because motivate's like pumping up a flat tire. It's still going to go out. You have to feel inspired in your business. So if your story is not interesting, people aren't going to be interested in you. So I kind of knew that far in, and that's how I get to see all these things. And it's funny how life works and opportunity happens. So
I do have a follow up to what he just said, though, because this is so impactful that I think people miss this. You test product for the consumer that you're identifying to cold call. So meaning that you test questions, you test timeframes, you test scripts that you go through. When you first started, I'm guessing like every single one of us, you took whatever script it was and stuck to it and pushed yourself through it. Where did you get to the confidence point where you could start moving things in and out? Like you said it, I'm doing it all day, and some days maybe not. But when you start, that's all you do. You pound your head against the wall, pound your head against the wall, and you make it through. And then someone finally says yes, and you're like, holy shit, it works. How did you get to that point? Tell us more about
you
that.
gotta, like I said, the dude who was my mentor was just a crazy person. But the thing that he was like, I was like a glutton for punishment. And I went through all these sports. I used to be a boxer, fighter, MMA, like all this stuff I did. So I would sit there and take hits from him. He'd be like, you're terrible, everything else. But what I realized was listening to him, it wasn't about the basic questions. It's the questions in between the questions. It's how can I ask these things like right at the beginning? Oh my God, if they're angry, oh my God, wait a minute. The two most powerful two-worded thing you can answer somebody, especially in expired, is what happened? Whoa, let's stop. Whoa. Because if you're going to keep on going your trip, you're not listening. Hey, oh my God, it sounds like it was a terrible, what happened? And then just shut up. And it's crazy. People will do this. So it's literally going through, like I said, the third part is just listening. You have to have good questions already queued up. Because if it's an expired listing, they probably at least heard 5 to 10 to 30 to 50 realtors when I was calling, right? I was calling in heydays where you're getting 50 calls for sure. And it was a great market. And people were like, why did you, X, Y, and Z? But if they're all saying the same things, they're probably not all listening. And there's only 5 or 10 that I know are they're going to be damn good. So I have to beat out them or call them 5 times. So it's not even about like that. It's having a process too. Like I used to call one expired 5 times in 2 days. Have that process because you're going to start to understand. Because they're going to appreciate that if they want a salesperson, okay, great. I specialize in homes cleaning off the market, just like you. If you could get it, or if they get it where it's like, oh, well, which agent you decide to go with? You don't say that. You say, every agent uses a different set of tools in their tools boxes. I appreciate that you're going to be going with the last agent you went with. Has he gone over what tools he's going to use differently this time around? What? No, he hasn't. Well, how about we do this? Let's just get together. You can compare services of what is going to work better for you, and then you can make an educated decision. Have X, Y, and Z available. When's best for you? And then you do. Oh, wow, that opens it up.
But did you literally just say? I want to repeat this. You said you called the same expired 5 times in 2 days. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah.
And how did that go?
Good. Those are your highest ones because you could demonstrate it. So if I call you in the morning, I call you in the afternoon, I call you at night, and they go in there, and depending on, so this is where your process comes in. If it was in my zip code, I would show up first, leave my card, and then we have really something to talk about because I would say, hey, look, I don't know if you know this. I didn't want to disturb you. I didn't know the situation, but I want to let you know I'm actually working your area. I'm an expert. It's a damn shame that your home didn't get sold, but just so it doesn't happen in the future, what can I do to prevent a future seller going through this as well? Now, these are conversations because now I'm talking about what happened so it doesn't happen to anybody else. Because I don't want you to feel the same. Was it the market? Was it the agent? Or was it did your plans change? Which one do you think it was? These are questions in between the questions. Now I can pinpoint what it is. And then not only that, but I can share it with my clients. When you're going to listen presentation, you don't get it. You say, look, I appreciate your time. Would it be possible for next time around if it doesn't sell? Can I be just the first on the list that you call? Would that be okay if I just checked in with you if it does expire? Perfect. Here's my number. Those little incremental things of experience is what got me over when I was in 4 years, 3 years, 5 years to get these listings and being like, oh, well, this is what you do. This is how you be productive because it has nothing to do with you. You're just building up to basically get the confidence, ask the questions, and then shut up and listen so you don't talk yourself out of the deal.
So your script is questions, right? And I hear so many people like on the phones selling and not asking the questions. What percentage of your script is you selling your services, and what percentage is you asking questions and trying to listen to what their needs are?
Yeah, you don't sell your service till you're in front of them. That doesn't make any sense. Like,
Say that again.
Why would you?
Say that again.
I said, you don't sell your services until you're in front of them. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not buying your house. Like, what are we talking about? I need to diagnose what it is and if I can actually help you. How about this? Let's be honest. If I can't help you, I'll hang up right now. But if I can, and I'm a powerful agent, like I said, if I can get it done, and it's important what you're looking for, when can we sit down so I at least can share the information and see if we're a good fit? First negotiation, I'm negotiating to you to get me to sign the contract. How well am I doing right now? Well, look, how about this? I'm not going to I'll leave it in the car. But if you like what I have to say, can we just make an agreement that that we get this done so I can get you where you want to be? It has nothing to do because we're not buying the house. We're not that important. We're selling a service and a process. Like if you're a buyer's agent, you're selling a product, right? You're selling a house to get in. You're selling your services to not open the door and negotiate this and this. As a listing agent, I'm selling a service. Like, hey, I want you to get here. You sound like you want to get here too. Now, I work off probabilities and percentages. How important was this move for you? And where do you think by pricing at X, Y, and Z, do you think you're going to get this probability that's going to sell? I'm not trying to lie to you. And then this is the service plan I use. It's proven because, I do X amount of deals a year. So the only thing I need to know if we're a good fit. That's it. What else are we talking about?
So I think that, a lot of people listening right now are going to say, how did you get so good? How do you sound so good? How much practice do you actually put in on the scripts themselves? Like, are you warming up every morning, practicing every middle of the day? Do you role play questions that didn't go well? I mean, tell us about your practice schedule.
So I'm real lucky that I have a lot of people who do a lot of business for me. But you guys have to understand how important role play is, first of all, and to have I got 2 role play, which is completely okay. Let me go back. I had to switch a lot of my business practice because I was only role playing with people for 90 days because it gets stagnant. Now I have 2 people who I've been role playing with for almost 3 years who are very high producers, everything else. But a lot of our role plays are very quick, and then we talk about business. So it's 30 minutes every week where we're like, bang, bang, you sound good. Hey, what did you do? What did you see? How is this going on in the business? So it's we get these little incremental things. More importantly, when you role play, you are making connections and networking with people you wouldn't otherwise. So role play with people outside of the state, please. That's the best way to get referral business. But yeah, I was in with basically until I switched some of my business plans when I moved over to Signature. I was role playing 5 days a week, probably 30 to 45 minutes a day with multiple people. I was internal, all my scripts are internalized. I could do it to the wall to the point where most people don't even want to hear it. Now I can just be like, you sold a house, X, Y, and Z. I can go through the whole thing. They're like, no, we have you. Or, yeah, I want to go through it. And my old coach made me do a listing presentation so the wall and record it. And be excited about it, go in there and do it. And it takes a long time. It just depends on where you're at and if you've had a sales background, like a direct sales background. So if you don't have that, internalizing the script's good because it just basically puts you on a process that leads to the signature. Just when they sign it, well, what do you do then? Can you set expectations? Before you even get to the appointment, what's your regiment? I open up my prospecting cockpit. I've done my affirmations. I've done my meditations. I've worked out, psyched in there. I do a couple things. I have my family first and center. Right under that, I have a picture of just a random family, and it says that, we're all families here too, because it helps me in there. I don't prioritize the process, I prioritize the person. And so many times we just get in this monotony where it's oh, whatever. And we never look and basically have this internalization of well, what could I have done better? How could I make that person better, even though that everyone else made it worse? So, like I said, it's depending on how much you're willing to commit towards it. I look at it as I've been, very lucky with the opportunities that have been presented to me. So I have basically ethical responsibility, not only myself, my clients, my family, to do good and work on my abilities as much as I possibly can, or basically there's 3 things I control. I say myself, my environment, and my choices, right? So all those 3 have to do with how I approach life and what I do in life. And, if I can help my environment, I can help myself. That's the issue, is that you can be great at scripts. You can have a great team like at Signature, but you still won't make the choice to go out and prospect. Isn't that insane? So there's sometimes I have to do that. But what I say is, okay, if I'm not willing to prospect today, I always have an exit strategy. So my exit strategy is, all right, well, I'm going to call 10 of my SOIs, or I'm going to go have coffee, or I'm going to make it where I have something that's going to be productive, not only for me, but for my business. Because, there's going to be a lot of times where you don't want to do what you have to do. But like Brian Tracy, like eat the frog, got to eat the frog, man, because success, rent's due every day for success. And some of you are behind. Some of them are behind on payments.
That's awesome.
So you said something in the academy, and you just kind of alluded to it there. And one of the reasons you said that people are kind of fearful of making calls is they think it's about them, and it's not. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, it's as easy as go listen to your voicemail. Like, if you don't like the sound of your own voice, imagine what they feel like when you call them. Like, it's insane to me when I think about that. Like, the whole point is you're trying to be good over the phone so you can actually listen to someone's pain points. Because that's what you're trying to do. Imagine like every single client that you have is like one of those pin cushions. And as an agent and as a professional, for what we do, we try to take those pins out. We try to take them one by one. Oh, well, okay, well, give me one or two things that your agent did that you really didn't like, or something that you would improve on. If you didn't know what you don't know, how would you approach selling your home? Okay, well, I know that you don't like showings. What ways can we supersede this? Are there times where we can see it superseded? Are you cool with open houses? See, I'm setting the intention and I'm figuring out ways, just because of my future, my proven process before, that I could make it easy for them to work with me. So the whole point is like, that's the real kind of like meat and potatoes. Like, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with your presentation, has everything to do with how you speak to people and the experience that you give them and how you make them feel. All that works on situations where you're like basically thinking outside of yourself. So I don't go and prospect and get my head beat over because, oh my God, I'm going to make all this money. I'm going to do this because not only do I know that I probably don't sound good, or I have that Muppet mentality, or I talk too fast, or X, Y, and Z. I have to slow it down so they can better understand my value proposition, so I can better work with them. And then, you know what I mean? Like, help everyone get what they want, and then you get what you want. If you don't prioritize the person first, you're never going to be successful in this business. And I don't care how many times you call. You could call. I mean, Mike Ferry, we were doing the two. We do the 2 8-hour days from the prospecting clinic. I've done a whole bunch of prospecting clinics. I did a whole bunch of seminars. I go to Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, Buffini, all these different things, all these different groups, because I need to have different perceptions. I need to have different perceptions of what they're doing. So those are really big, because when people call you and they say, "Oh, I can totally understand what you're going through," that's like the worst thing people can say, because it's taking away like their truth. I say, I can't even imagine what you're going through. If this could be done, how would you do it now? That's the power of prospecting. That's the power of like putting them in front of you. That's the power. This is why you do it, because practicing what you say gives you the confidence to say it.
So let me go back to a point we had earlier, and that was that success is in the numbers, right? And so tracking your numbers when you're a phone prospector to see those tweaks and things you need to do, I think is really important, and something that we talked about. Talk a little bit about how you track that and best practices for it. And then I got a second question for you. I always see the new agent who sees you or sees someone just like you prospecting, making cold calls. And they're like, "Oh my God, that sounds so great." And I watch them go up to the table and they sit down and they make 2 calls and they lose all their enthusiasm and they just stop. Explain a little bit about how often and how long you probably need to cold call to get some real success when you're newer versus when you're a seasoned prospector like yourself.
And that's all, so it's kind of a crazy thing, because technically I know a lot of people who aren't successful by doing prospecting calls, right? The issue is they don't do anything else. Like, they're all right, well, I got to get face to face. First of all, prospecting gets you face to face a lot quicker, and you can do way more doors because people are raising their hand and telling you where they want to be at. The issue is that like a good prospector, if they don't have direct sales background, they're not going to seminars, it's probably going to take you 2 to 5 years, being honest. That's you every day doing stuff, and that's you being like inflictive. The cool thing is like I've seen some of the dumbest people in the world who are good prospectors because they just stick to script and they just can get it, right? But the whole thing is that like that's their job. So when you have somebody like that who's just willing to do it no matter what we call those turn and burn agents. because they don't have a plan or process or anything else, and they're just on their stuff, right? The good thing is that numbers is a universal language. Because guess what? 1+1 is still 2 in China. It's everything else, and that's where the fear comes in, because they don't see as human beings, we want this instant gratification, right? Like everything's going well, but the issue is that they're not reflecting on those metrics that they had that day. Like I said, like if you're satisfied and fulfilled in it, you're going to see that and say, "Oh my God, well I did 300 calls, I got 20 contacts, and I got completely crapped on, but I did it," right? They're not celebrating that. Everyone's celebrating, "Oh my God, I got this listing. Oh my God, I sold this house." Like I hate Instagram and everything else because it's like a very comparative, comparative platform. It's all about comparison on there. Where you should be, "Oh my God, well I did this. I got me one step further than this. If I do X amount of calls this day, if I hit 32 contacts tomorrow, I know I'm gonna get a listing. And if I don't, I know I'm gonna get a listing." See, you got to be inspired. That's the difference between inspiration and motivation. And being inspired gets you up every day. Getting you motivated just gets you to the phones, but it doesn't get you to the dial. Or it gets you to dial one number and you hear the tone dial and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna hang up." The whole thing is that it's a long process. And unfortunately, when I see those new agents and they're not in that, I know they're probably not gonna make it. Like that just says what it is. But that's another thing you got to be inspired about, because not everyone is built for this business. Not everyone deserves to be with that, because that's, I think, when you think about the lawsuits and everything else, there was too many bad people in this industry. You have to take that in. You got to be excited because you have earned the right to be here. That's not for everybody. This is a beautiful business because you can give yourself a raise every time you wake up. And if a new agent comes in and doesn't understand that, and they don't internalize it, and they don't use the tools, and they just think, "Well, I can do it because I did it this way," this ain't that business. Go look at Walmart. It's easy to be a greeter, but it's hard to sell yourself. It's hard to sell your abilities. And it's hard to get up every day and work it because some of us have kids, have responsibilities, and have all these different things that's going to tell you not to do it. The people who take that, like I said, that courageous step, 3 steps forward, those are the people that you want. And those are the people who are going to actually have value in what they're selling. So, you know what I mean? Like, I think when you're scared, guess what? You're exactly where you're supposed to be, because it's a scary business. And one of the best things that I was taught was, you're in the land of wolves now and don't look like a sheep. You're in this business, and every single person, top producers, everything else, don't care how many kids you have. They got their dreams, they have their focus in line, and they're going to go in and say, "Well, how about we do this? You're a brand new agent, phenomenal. I've been doing this 20, 30, 40 years. Here's my service standards. How about you compare?" They don't care about what you're doing. So you better be a wolf out there in the sense that you're willing to good value. You're willing to put yourself out there, and then you're willing to every day, continually and consistently make a better product that you're selling. Have a better service that you can actually sell, that actually can help people. Not about the money. I don't care about the income. I care about the impact. So I'm very big on like, look, we got too many agents. Just like 2 years ago, there was like 22,000 agents. Yuck. And like half of them didn't do business. What are we doing?
So if we switch over from this idea to the objections part, right? So your entire process has prepped you to handle these objections that come up, and that's what people do. I mean, they answer the phone and they're just looking to get rid of you, and so your ability to keep them on the phone, to keep them motivated, to get them to that appointment. The whole point of the call is to set an appointment, right? I mean, so how do you plan out? How do you practice for those objections? And what's the most common one you get? Like, what do you get every time that you're just ready for? Give it to me. I'm ready for it.
We're selling. We're going to think about it. There's no way we'd work with another agent. First of all, there's only 40 objections. Mike Ferry has them listed. They've been out there for like 20 years.
Yeah.
The easiest thing, I'll give you a tip, everybody. Go get the Mike Ferry 40 objections. I'm pretty sure Tom Ferry, they're all the same. Just put that in ChatGPT. Copy, paste, put it in ChatGPT. Give me more modern answers. Very, very simple. But look, Mike Ferry was great. Like, if you guys, he's like a weird person, because now I'm like, we have different styles, but for the direct to sales, he's the absolute best, because the whole, I was with Mike Ferry for 5.5 years. He gives you a process. And we always say that objections are an opportunity. Objections are just a concern. And the more that you address these concerns, the easier you're going to get in front of them. Look, if someone says, "Oh, this is a big decision, I don't want to pay your commission," you know what my number one thing to say that is? Guess what? I wouldn't either. if I can deliver what we're going to, would you at least hear me out and, be open-minded to meeting with me? Because no one's going to be closed-minded, right? These are the little things that I can put in there to be like, oh, okay. Because once again, everyone wants to close and do everything else. What if they're not motivated? Why am I sitting down with someone just like that's the crazy part when we talk about the scripts. People don't realize I'm also interviewing them.
Mhm.
Do I want to work with a psychopath? No, I don't want to work with a psychopath. Like, why would I do that? And if you're not listening and you're just trying to get a deal, you're probably willing to work with anyone, and that's why your business is faltering. You have to have enough confidence in yourself to go out there and tell them, I'm probably not the best agent for you. Now, I do have a couple people who will work with you and then get the referral fee. You know what I mean? But what's wrong with that? Like, people aren't confident in themselves and they're probably not confident in their business. And you have so many other things. Like, I don't wait. Like, realtor is like fifth on my list of things that I consider myself and my identity is worth. I'm a father. I'm a friend. I love my community. I'm a traveler. Like, why are we taking all that out? That's what it goes to be interesting. You got to be excited about what you do and who you are. And I think a lot of times we're not, and we're willing to do whatever we want to do. And that's the issue. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't post my victories. I'd much rather post my defeat. I don't post anything about my kids on there because I know what it is. Like, okay, how many people, everyone posts just listed, just sold, but how many posted the expired ones? How many posts like we went out of contract? How many posts I didn't succeed? But those are the biggest thing that you look at, you become better as a person. Like, nobody does that. So until we start doing that, my whole thing is like everything works, and the universe conspires, right? So the more things you do is the more you're going to get out. And don't get through the day like most people go through, get from the day kind of situations. Like, always have those things, and you'll always be a winner no matter how much money you make. Like, you can still be a good person, but when people are like, I'm the number one realtor, I'm like, well, who gives it? Like, what does that mean? And that's another thing. Like, I've known so many top producers who have killed it, done everything, and then they're just burnt out. And then next year's, they'll make like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 deals. And guess who's way happier? They are. They're like, I did it, I achieved it, but guess what? No one's there to like, rah, rah. I did 150 deals, but I'm single and divorced now. Oh, that was a good idea. What are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. So just be aware of
Jamaal,
yourself. All that matters.
So Jamaal, you said something there, burnout, right? So if all you did was come in every day and you had to prospect, talk to people you don't know, and go through that process, over time it would burn you out. And so, what do you use, or how do you follow up or build your database? Do you use any special contact management system? What's your process for getting repeat business, so to speak?
So the biggest thing that I learned from a lot of people is you got to have, I go back to like having all your poles in the water, have a monthly email, have at least like 4 client parties. I use Follow Up Boss. I use Real Scouts. I use HomeBot. I use MailChimp. All those are free except for HomeBot. HomeBot's $25, but that's direct contact with my lender. So you basically have to use a big network of people. You have all these people working with you, but you don't activate them. So we talk about the activating call. I'll literally call my SY and be like, hey, if you want me to be successful, oh my God, I want you to be successful too. I got this big trip to Japan coming up. Could you just give me 1 or 2 people in your phone right now that have even just whispered real estate, please? No? Okay. Or if yes, hey, perfect. Give those to me. I'll call you back in an hour. If they say no, would you do me a big favor? If someone does talk about real estate, who's the realtor you're going to give them to? Oh, it's me? Oh, that means so much to me. I got this big trip to Japan coming up. I'll get you some Mickey ears from Disneyland, right? Would you do me a favor as well? This is the second part. What are ways that I can help you with what you're doing on the deal? If you're going to look out for me, I'm going to look out for you. Now I'm helping them come into my business. And not only that, but now if I hear something, I can champion their cause as well. So real estate works in what I found out, like 3 different stages. First, you're an agent, right? You're like, I don't know what to do. And then you're a business. You have a storefront, you go into it. And the third, the most important that I'm trying to work towards is the community aspect. That's when you look at like Woodcock, all the other people and all these people, because they built up a community. People are going to go with them because they have proven success with it and they made people feel a certain way. If you're a new, brand new agent, you already got to start thinking about that community. So if people don't know what you do, people don't know what you're going for, they're going to think it's just money and suits. But if I have all these things and all these different experiences that they help me, You can help me go to Japan. Let me help you go somewhere. How about you travel with me? See, that's the universe conspiring right there. That's you understanding opportunity. So that's the thing that people get to, and they're much more likely to have that. Everything else is just I'm just checking in like I was their friend. So I already have them. That's what I have when I prospect brand cold calls. Like, what if this was an old friend I hadn't seen since high school? So when I talked about having the picture up top of my family and having that picture below, that's what that picture below is for. Oh my God, you have kids? Now we're building bridges. Like when we think about like sphere of influence or circle of influence, I think about a big circle with all my friends on it. And they're trying to bring people over. So I have to build a bridge to make it easy for them to cross over. Now with MailChimp, I can see their open rate, but it's going to give me a percentage. Open of mail is like super low, but you have 2% click rate, right? I can look in and I can see who clicked on it. See, now I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in my business. Hey, I see that you click on my emails every day. Let's go get coffee. If I have something to Facebook or Instagram or everything else, go look at your likes. Go look at the people who are already trying to be in your business and see if you're making it easy for them to cross over, seeing if it's easy for them to refer business to you, seeing if it's easy for create that experience, because it might just be coffee or they might be going through a bad time. And if you help them with that, not only will be, are you helping them like solve one of those pain points? Like I promise you, that's like good karma coming your way. So yeah, that's like definitely important. But that's the process that we get paid for. That's the process, and that's what we look for as human beings is progress. I look at what I was 2 years ago, and I look at where I am now, and if that doesn't make you warm-hearted and feel fuzzy, I don't know what else would. That's why journaling is important. That's why all these things are important, because if I can go back to the worst time when I journaled, right? I lived in Washington 10 days and I got arrested immediately. 10 days. And in my journal, that's one of my first journal things. And I thought the world was over. Oh my God, I'm so sad. Then I had from the birth of my child to me getting smashed on these listing appointments to everything else. And I'm like, wow, life's not that serious. But when we look at tombstones, right, the most important thing is the dash. How you lived your life, how you made people feel, because none of these clients are going to be coming to my funeral or be coming to my bedside, but my kids are. And if I can show my kids what it is to be successful and not have to make all the money, but be a good person, that's what's most important to me. And once again, if you're not excited about that, I check your pulse. You might already be dead.
Well, Jamaal, we can see that you have a problem carrying on a conversation. So hopefully you fix that. I want to go to one thing, and it's really important, I believe, and I want to hear your take on it, but pre-qualification. So after you've set this appointment and going through that process of actually getting to the appointment, a lot of people will set them and then the person won't show up or they won't be there. Talk about your pre-qualification process, kind of a few steps you go through to do that.
Oh my God, that's like the most important script you have to know. Pre-qual, so I listened to you guys' last one. Pre-qual gives you all the answers to the test. The way that you can pre-qual and that a level of ability will give you that's like 80. You still might get beat up by other agents, but that's 80% of the game. That's your most important script by far, is your pre-qual script, because that's going to give you the notification to basically either go or not go, because they might not be motivated, or you might not even be able to help them. And then the best part is that the process is that after you pre-qual, and you should be calling the next morning, because then they're going to give you the objections that you could be ready for. Like those are the most important things. Hey, I know you said, we're going to meet between 3:00 today. Hey, I sent a pre-listing packet, right? Was there any concerns that I can address when we get there? Well, I'm not paying 3%. Okay, would you pay 4 or 5 or 6? Just kidding. How about this? No, I know that commission's going to be the first one. How about we make that the first thing we talk about? So when we're going on the script, everyone thinks you have to read a script word for word. Script is just a guideline of questions. It doesn't matter which order you ask them in. It just depends on how confident you can make them that you're the right person to hire. Well, okay, you don't want to pay. We're going to go with 1% agent. I get that. That's interesting. Have you even compared in services to see what a 3% agent will get you? Well, how about we do that? Well, I don't want to meet. I wouldn't either in your situation. Hey, but if I can get you, if there's a financial advantage for us to get together and it only took 15 to 20 minutes, depending on your questions, would you at least like to hear what I have to say? Yeah, I'm not giving them anything. I'm sharing and letting them decide. See the little things that you have to tell yourself. But it opens up the conversations.
So what is your favorite type of lead to call?
Oh, SOI. It's easy because you can attract them already. I mean, SOI is like That's like it's like your data bank. Like not even a database, data bank. You would draw. They already know you. I would draw all these all these good people that have value, and then every once in a while I'm like, can I get some referrals, mate? I can just basically get referrals back. So calling them because I'm already invested in them, and I've already had that situation where they're already like basically no love and trust me. Funny enough, there's one of my clients who I thought hated me, and I still kept up with her. And she just referred her brother and her sister-in-law to me. So that's two deals worth like 15,000, and it was just me in my own head saying, "Oh, she was just busy. She didn't respond. She like was basically freaking out every time. Like I went in and they had something wrong with the wall, and she was like, "Oh, it's your fault." Everything else. So yesterday I dropped off some beer for the referral. Like I didn't stay. I just had a whole bunch of beers, and I said, "Thank you for referring your people." And we already have a BBA signed. Everything's done. And I'm like, "Did you ever get that wall fixed?" She said, "No, but I really appreciate you. Like, that's why I referred them to you, because I know that I wasn't like really nice, but you still referred, you still kept up with me. And I was just at a bad place, she was just became a mom 2 years ago. So it was all these things. And I was like, oh, that's just on me. Like, that's the crazy part is everyone is an opportunity to make someone's day. It's all on you to be like, how am I going to approach this? What's most important? And then like with SOI, it's just easy because they know I'm a psychopath. They're like, oh my God, you're having a bad day. Call me. I'll cheer you up. I'll go out there. Let's go do it. We'll have some drinks. But that's like, you should be calling every single person your SOI. My first calls that I was going to when I was practicing my scripts was my mom, because she would tell me, you're terrible. That doesn't sound anything like you. So that's the other thing, is that people have to understand when you're scared, when you're anxious, when you don't know how to make a call flow, get the people who know you best. Have like your starting five of people that you can go to, and then you can say, if I'm having a bad day, can I call you? Or I'm really trying to practice this script. Can you tell me if this is does this sound like me? Because what happens, especially on the script, is that you call them and they think you're them until you show up, and then you're you, and you're a completely different person. So it goes back to what Chris was talking about. That's the like crazy thing when you practice, when you come in prepared. Preparation leads to execution. That's where you get your confidence from. So yeah, call your SOI every day. They're the best.
I was hoping you were going to say expireds. But yeah, I can see why. I could see why the SOI would be. I think it should be most everybody's favorite call, but a lot of people dread it. But I've heard you on the phone with expireds. Do you like calling them? Is that a challenge for you? What do you think?
Yeah, it's the best. Whenever I need like money, and I'm just like in there, I'll sit on expired calls all day, 2 years, 3 years. Hey, have you heard about the market? This is what we're doing, because they rose their hand and said, I'm ready to sell, and didn't sell. So usually when they have the biggest problems, I can find out through just the calls, just the understanding about the pre-qual script, if they're motivated or not. Hey, I know you were trying to sell 2 years ago. Hey, what was the timeline on that? Are you guys still looking to sell, or what happened? Or I'm telling you, what happened, if you can put that in your script, is going to open up a lot. We decided we couldn't do this. Well, what would have to happen to make you consider it? Or where does that put you at now? Or if you think about buying other properties, or X, Y, and Z things? Because now what I've found out is that it doesn't really matter unless they go into your database. So if they're not going to your database, who cares if they're expired? Like, you should be calling everybody. You know what the best script for expireds are? Just sold scripts. If you called expireds with just sold scripts, they're probably going to be a little bit more, and they're not getting the same script. Oh, hi. Hey, Brandon. This is Jamal from Signature Real Estate Group. We actually just sold your house. Oh, my God, I'm expired. Oh, my God, we actually just sold that house over there. Jesus, what happened? You know what I mean? So it has the script. I promise you, it has nothing to do with it, because if you call enough cold calls or whatever they are, you're going to run across an expired, a FISBO, and everything else. That's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with the houses. It has everything to do with you and how well you train, how well you're prepared for a situation, to pivot in a market, to do this, how well, how coachable you are, how open you are to learning, how open you are to listening, right? How open you are to thinking outside yourself and actually delivering good service. So, I mean, SOI is the easiest because I have scripts that are going to be easy for them, and I can basically know they're going to respond. But if we're being honest, none of them are actually scripts. they're all motivation scripts, right? An expired, a FISBO, just listed, just sold, everything else. We're just looking for motivation. A pre-qualification script is just a qualification. Are they motivated and are they qualified? I don't look at it as expired, FISBO, this and this. I know I have a higher rate of like basically converting on them. But at the end of the day, we don't put it in there. It's just a part of our process. If you list a home, you should be calling and then you should be door knocking, right? Potentially do an open house, but your money is in the follow-up. Hey, because if you call, like if you're doing an open house, I hate it when agents do open houses and call the neighborhood with like, we're gonna be like, why would they come to your open house? They already live in the neighborhood. Like, what are we doing here? You gotta have different ways. Like, hey, look, we're gonna be doing an open house. I want to let you know about the traffic. Hopefully we get a lot of people. Would you have any problem with me adding a little bit of equity in your home this year? Fantastic. I want to make sure that, do you have anybody that you've been thinking about moving the neighborhood, maybe from work, a softball team? I don't know what you like. What are some of the things that you do? All right, wonderful. Hey, we're going to actually have this open house open an hour early for all the neighbors, and we're going to be doing a drawing for $25 to see who gets closest to this number that the home sells at. We want to make sure that, we do X, Y, and Z. Please invite the neighbors that you don't like so we can get them the hell out of the neighborhood, and then we can go from there. What did say no to me?
Right. So
different things.
I think expireds might be a gold mine because you keep pulling us off of it. But let me ask you this. Like, a lot of people think that there are a ton of people calling expireds and for sub-owners. Is that the case? First, and then second of all, like, what's the most common objection you get when you're calling an expired?
So honestly, there's probably less than 50. And out of that 50, there's probably 10, 12 that are really good that specialize in that. They can actually actually show up to the house, will do what their due diligence is. And I can name a lot of them because they're like fairy agents or contrary agents, and they have a process and approach. Number one is, for the number one objection in it, there's like 3 usually. I'm signing with the same agent. I'm not selling my house. Usually for expireds, they're either not motivated in this market. Well, currently, we've been adding listings and stuff like that. Usually they don't want to, but it differs. Honestly, my biggest thing is like, we're not selling anymore and they are selling. You'll see them like a couple days later, like on the market. So they're just trying to do just like
push you off, right?
Yeah. Just like push off stuff.
So how do you overcome that? We're not selling. We've changed our mind.
Oh, change your mind completely. I can't even understand. Hey, what happened?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because why are we trying to close on stuff? Like, everyone has all these 40 objections and we're like, I'm going to take them down. My job is not to like prospect and close. My job is to attract and invite. If you could sell your home now, well, what would that look like? Well, what's actually happening? What are we doing here? Like, so wait a minute. If you would have took an offer yesterday, what would you have done then? Because you're telling me it was the day before, and then you were going to be moving to this. Okay, well, what's over there in Utah? Oh, there's other people in there. Your wife's sick, this and this. Okay, well, what would have to happen for you to get in there? It has nothing to do with the close and everything to do with the question. It just makes it easier for everyone to familiarize with it. So when you get a push-off question, you can just respond to it. But you can have all the 40 objections, easy. But if you close, that's just like the dumb guy because you're just reading. You're not listening. Well, wait a minute. If I could do this, I could do X, Y, and Z, like you said. Well, when would you like to make that decision? When would be a good time when you feel comfortable? Hey, look, well, we're not going to be selling until summertime. Okay, well, have you even compared what it looks like to sell now versus summertime? What is this question? I get that. Oh my God, I hear you. I'm going to repeat what you say. I'm going to really give it an approval to be like, oh, I can see why you would feel that way. Then I'm going to ask the next question. Then I'm going to shut up and listen to what they have to say. That's all it is. We have all the, when you close and everything else, you're just thinking from a script and not thinking about the person. So when you get these expireds, well, once again, what are you going to be looking for now? I'm never going to work with an agent. Okay, so you're going to be the for sale by owner. I have a whole bunch of information. How about we do this? You'll be open-minded to it. Let's sit down. I'll give you a whole bunch of things. Don't worry. I'll leave the contracts on the car. If you don't feel comfortable, I at least want to be the first person. So this time around, you're going to be working with a professional. And then I call them. Once again, now we're talking about now. That's why I call them 5 times. Hey, Brandon, I know we talked yesterday. just want to make sure you're in there or you're good or there's anything that happened in your timeline because I want to make sure that you get to Utah. I know that was really important last time we spoke. I have all my notes and follow-up, boss, right? So I'm going through and I'm literally going back and now they feel hurt. Most of the time, you just, like you said, you're just telling. Once someone feels heard, they resonate with that. Now you can start branding and familiarize yourself with that agent and you being a professional. So yeah, that's important.
I love the points that you said. It's like you're becoming an asset instead of an expense, right? For them. I want to go to one thing real quick. I know we're almost running out of time. I've always felt that this is a life skill, like your ability to have great conversations with people on the phone and get them from point A to point B while feeling great about it. It's got to be one of the most invaluable life skills that you can take and use for anything. So just like on the Springer show, share your final thoughts on that life skill that you've created.
So when we talk about life skills, the biggest thing is me. I was so focused on my business when I was prospecting, when I came from Berkshire, that I was losing a lot of myself, to be completely honest with you, because I was so focused on the awards and the recognition, forgot about my family. When I moved over to Signature, that was one of the biggest things that I look at. So the whole thing is, it's more important to feel good about who you are and feel good about the people around you than anything else. And when we look at that A to B and to everything else, understand how important it is what you're doing and what you want out of it. If you can do that, you'll be the truest version of yourself and nobody can take that away. There's no amount of recognition, no amount of money, no amount of everything else. Always remember that you're selling an experience. And I've learned that from being from Vegas. And I've always taken that because, you used to shake hands with Sinatra and people would be, you'd be eye to eye contact and everything. So the more that you work on yourself, the more that the universe works to conspire what you want.
That's a great place to end. Jamaal, we really, really appreciate your time this morning and all your words of wisdom. And just know I'm going to be tapping into you. I'm envisioning some sort of a prospecting class on a regular basis that you could run and maybe get some agents more comfortable on the phones, not just with cold calls or expires or FSBOs, but their sphere of influence. Remember, it's all about who you talk to and getting out there. So thank you again for listening to the Signature Buzz. And just remember, we're always affirming your success. Have a great week.